They said family loyalty was dead in the bloodline. Wrestling fans around the world believed that the systematic betrayals, corporate conspiracies, and assassination attempts had permanently destroyed the bonds that once made this wrestling dynasty untouchable. But what happened yesterday at Northwestern Memorial Hospital will make you question everything you thought you knew about blood, betrayal, and the one family member who refused to abandon Roman Reigns when everyone else had written him off for dead. Nia Jax's shocking visit to Roman's hospital room wasn't just a family reunion, it was the exposure of the most sickening cover-up in WWE history, and what she discovered about Roman's condition will make your blood boil with rage at how far WWE executives were willing to go to keep their biggest star silenced forever. The visit that changed everything happened at 3:17 a.m., during the shift change when hospital security was at its weakest and corporate paid guards were momentarily distracted. Nia Jax didn't use official channels or request permission from WWE executives. She broke into Northwestern Memorial Hospital like a woman on a mission to uncover the truth that everyone else was too scared or too corrupted to investigate. Nia looked like someone who had been planning this infiltration for weeks, a hospital security guard later revealed. She knew exactly which entrance to use, which hallways to avoid, which staff members were on WWE's payroll. This wasn't a spontaneous family visit, this was a carefully orchestrated mission to expose something that powerful people were desperately trying to hide. But what Nia discovered when she finally reached Roman's hospital room was so shocking, so obviously the result of systematic abuse rather than medical treatment, that she immediately began recording everything on her cell phone to ensure the world would see what WWE had done to their own champion. Roman looked like a prisoner of war, Nia later revealed in an exclusive interview that sent shockwaves through the wrestling industry. Not a recovering patient, not someone healing from injuries, but a victim of systematic torture who was being kept alive but deliberately prevented from recovering. The condition that Nia found Roman in defied every explanation WWE had given about his medical status and recovery timeline. Instead of the healing champion they had described in corporate statements, she found someone who appeared to have been systematically weakened through months of pharmaceutical manipulation and medical neglect. They had him hooked up to machines that seemed designed to keep him sedated rather than help him heal. Nia continued her devastating revelations. IVs pumping unknown substances into his body, monitoring equipment that looked more like surveillance than medical care, restraints that had no medical justification. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of Roman's condition was the evidence of ongoing medical procedures that seemed designed to cause additional damage rather than promote healing. Roman had fresh surgical scars that weren't mentioned in any of his medical reports. Nia revealed with horror that made everyone understand this was about criminal activity rather than legitimate medical care. Incisions in places that made no sense for his reported injuries, surgical sites that appeared to be experimental rather than therapeutic. The systematic evidence of unauthorized medical procedures conducted on an unconscious patient elevated WWE's conspiracy from attempted murder to ongoing torture that could result in war crimes charges if conducted by government authorities. But the worst part, Nia's voice cracked with emotion as she revealed the most heartbreaking aspect of her discovery, was that Roman was conscious. Not unconscious like WWE claimed, not in a medically induced coma for his own protection, but fully aware and unable to move or speak because of whatever they were pumping into his body. The revelation that Roman had been conscious throughout his medical imprisonment while being told that his family had abandoned him represented psychological warfare that transcended corporate conspiracy and entered the realm of genuine evil. When Roman saw me walk into that room, Nia continued through tears, the relief in his eyes was heartbreaking. He had been told that his family didn't want to see him, that everyone had given up on him, that he was too damaged to ever be worth visiting. But Nia's most explosive revelation concerned what Roman told her during the brief moments when his pharmaceutical restraints were weakest and he could whisper fragments of information about his imprisonment. Roman told me they had been forcing him to sign documents, Nia revealed with controlled fury. Legal papers transferring his intellectual property rights, contracts giving WWE permanent control of his name and likeness, financial authorizations allowing them to seize his assets. The systematic theft of Roman's intellectual property and financial resources while he was medically imprisoned represented corporate crime at a level that transformed WWE from entertainment company into organized criminal enterprise. They were literally stealing his life's work while keeping him drugged and helpless. Nia continued her systematic exposure of WWE's crimes. Every contract he had fought to negotiate, every financial protection he had secured for his family, every asset he had built through years of hard work, they were systematically transferring all of it to corporate control. But perhaps the most sickening aspect of WWE's medical conspiracy was their manipulation of Roman's family, using false medical information to keep his loved ones away while they conducted their theft and torture. WWE told us that Roman was too sick for visitors, Nia revealed with obvious anger. They said that family contact might interfere with his recovery, that emotional stress could cause life-threatening complications, that the best thing we could do was stay away and let their medical team work. The systematic isolation of Roman from his family while he was tortured and robbed represented psychological warfare designed to break his spirit as well as steal his assets. Meanwhile, Nia continued her devastating revelations. They were telling Roman that his family had abandoned him, that we didn't want to see him because he was too damaged, that everyone had moved on with their lives while he suffered alone. But Nia's investigation into Roman's medical status had uncovered something even more disturbing, evidence that WWE's medical conspiracy extended beyond just Roman to include systematic abuse of other wrestlers who had been deemed problematic. Roman wasn't the only one, Nia announced, her words sending shockwaves through the wrestling industry. I found evidence of at least 8 other wrestlers who had been subjected to similar medical manipulation and asset theft while being held in corporate-controlled facilities. The systematic use of medical imprisonment as a weapon against independent-minded wrestlers revealed WWE's conspiracy as more than just anti-Roman sentiment. It was infrastructure for corporate dictatorship that would eliminate any performer who demanded fair treatment. Wrestlers who had demanded creative control, who had negotiated favorable contracts, who had built independent income sources, all of them mysteriously suffered convenient medical emergencies that resulted in long-term hospitalizations. Nia continued her exposure of the broader conspiracy. But perhaps the most damaging evidence that Nia discovered was documentation proving that WWE's medical conspiracy had been planned and authorized at the highest levels of corporate leadership. I found planning documents, Nia revealed with satisfaction, that sent panic through WWE's executive team. Board meeting minutes discussing medical solutions to talent problems, budget allocations for extended medical custody, authorization codes for therapeutic asset protection. The corporate documentation of systematic medical abuse and theft provided prosecutors with direct evidence of criminal conspiracy that could result in life sentences for everyone involved. Triple H's signature was on medical custody authorizations. Nia continued her systematic destruction of WWE's corporate leadership. Stephanie McMahon approved budget transfers for patient management services. Nick Khan coordinated with outside medical facilities to ensure maximum security and minimum oversight. But Nia's most shocking revelation concerned the role that certain family members had played in enabling Roman's medical imprisonment through their cooperation with corporate authorities. Some people we trusted as family were reporting on our attempts to visit Roman, Nia announced with heartbreak that made everyone understand this betrayal went beyond corporate conspiracy into personal treachery. Providing WWE with intelligence about our plans, our concerns, our growing suspicion that something was wrong. The systematic betrayal of family trust by people who had been welcomed into their inner circle revealed how thoroughly WWE's corruption had infiltrated even the most private relationships. People who ate at our dinner tables, who played with our children, who we trusted with our most intimate family secrets, they were corporate spies reporting on our every move, Nia continued with obvious pain. But perhaps the most emotionally devastating moment of Nia's hospital infiltration was Roman's reaction when she told him that his family hadn't abandoned him and that she was there to ensure he would never be alone again. Roman started crying, Nia's voice broke as she recalled the moment. Not from pain, not from fear, but from relief that someone had finally found him, that his family hadn't forgotten about him, that he wasn't as alone as WWE had convinced him he was. The psychological damage that WWE's systematic isolation had inflicted on Roman revealed the cruelty of their medical conspiracy extended far beyond physical torture into deliberate emotional destruction. Roman had been convinced that his wife had started divorce proceedings, Nia revealed with growing anger. That his children had been told he was too dangerous to visit, that the Bloodline had officially expelled him for being too much trouble. But Nia's most explosive revelation concerned the immediate danger that Roman faced and the timeline WWE had established for completing their theft of his assets and elimination of his testimony. They were planning to declare him mentally incompetent, Nia announced with horrified realization. Legal proceedings to strip Roman of his decision-making authority and transfer everything to corporate guardianship while he was still too drugged to defend himself. The systematic legal theft that WWE had planned while Roman was medically imprisoned represented the final phase of their conspiracy to permanently eliminate him as a financial and creative threat. Roman would have lost everything, Nia continued with controlled fury. His contracts, his assets, his intellectual property, his parental rights, his ability to make any legal or medical decisions about his own life. But Nia's heroic infiltration of the hospital had interrupted WWE's timeline and provided Roman with the opportunity to expose their crimes before their legal theft could be completed. The moment Roman saw me, he began fighting the pharmaceutical restraints, Nia revealed with admiration for her cousin's determination. Using every ounce of strength he had left to stay conscious long enough to tell me what had been done to him and who was responsible. The systematic information that Roman provided during his brief moments of clarity gave Nia the intelligence she needed to understand the scope of the conspiracy and begin gathering evidence for criminal prosecution. Roman had been keeping mental notes, Nia explained with awe at his psychological strength. Names, dates, conversations, procedures, everything he had observed during months of imprisonment, all stored in his memory for the moment when someone would finally come to rescue him. But perhaps the most shocking aspect of Roman's information was his revelation about which family members had been cooperating with his imprisonment and which ones had been genuinely fighting to reach him. Roman knew exactly who had betrayed him, Nia revealed with cold satisfaction. Every family member who had provided information to WWE, every friend who had chosen corporate security over family loyalty, every person who had abandoned him when he needed support most. The systematic documentation of family betrayal that Roman had maintained during his imprisonment provided a roadmap for understanding how WWE's conspiracy had been able to operate with such effectiveness. But Roman also knew who had been fighting for him, Nia continued with obvious emotion. The family members who had been filing lawsuits, threatening legal action, doing everything possible to reach him despite corporate obstruction. The contrast between family members who had abandoned Roman and those who had fought for him provided a clear picture of where loyalty lay and who could be trusted in the battles ahead. Roman made me promise something, Nia revealed with the weight of someone who had been entrusted with a sacred mission. He made me swear that I would expose every aspect of this conspiracy, that I would ensure every criminal faced consequences, that I would never let anyone forget what WWE did to their own champion. The sacred commitment that Roman had extracted from Nia elevated her infiltration from family rescue to moral crusade that would reshape the entire wrestling industry. Roman also gave me specific instructions about evidence, Nia continued with satisfaction that suggested their infiltration had been more successful than WWE realized. Where to find documentation, which medical staff could be trusted to testify, how to access security footage that proved systematic abuse. The systematic intelligence that Roman provided during their brief reunion gave Nia everything she needed to build criminal cases that would destroy everyone involved in his medical imprisonment. "We have everything," Nia announced with confidence that sent shockwaves through WWE's corporate structure. Medical records, security footage, financial documents, recorded conversations, all the evidence needed to prove criminal conspiracy, systematic torture, and attempted theft. But perhaps Nia's most powerful revelation concerned Roman's determination to return to wrestling and his commitment to ensuring that no other performer would ever suffer the systematic abuse he had endured. "Roman is going to recover," Nia declared with absolute certainty. Not because WWE's medical team will allow it, but because he has decided that his survival is the best revenge against people who tried to eliminate him permanently. The promise of Roman's recovery and return provided hope that justice would eventually be served and that WWE's criminal conspiracy would face consequences through both legal channels and personal retribution. "Roman is planning something," Nia revealed with satisfaction that made everyone understand this was about systematic response rather than simple survival. Every day they kept him imprisoned, every procedure they performed without consent, every asset they tried to steal, he was planning exactly how he would respond when he finally regained his freedom. But Nia's most chilling revelation concerned the immediate danger she now faced for exposing WWE's medical conspiracy and the lengths the company might go to silence her testimony. "I'm in protective custody," Nia admitted with grim realism. "The people who were willing to torture Roman for months won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatens to expose their crimes." The personal risk that Nia had accepted by infiltrating the hospital and exposing WWE's conspiracy demonstrated the kind of moral courage that would be needed to transform wrestling from corporate dictatorship into performer-controlled industry. "But I'm not afraid," Nia continued with determination that made everyone understand she was committed to seeing this fight through to its conclusion. "Roman survived systematic torture for months while believing his family had abandoned him. The least I can do is accept some personal risk to ensure his suffering wasn't meaningless." The wrestling world was struggling to process Nia Jax's explosive revelations about Roman's medical imprisonment and WWE's systematic conspiracy to torture and rob their own champion. Her heroic infiltration had exposed crimes that could destroy the company and send executives to prison for life. But most importantly, Nia had proven that family loyalty still existed within the bloodline, that some bonds couldn't be broken by corporate manipulation or systematic intimidation, and that Roman Reigns had at least one family member who was willing to risk everything to save him from the people who were trying to eliminate him permanently. "Roman is going to survive this," Nia concluded with absolute conviction. "He's going to recover, he's going to return, and he's going to ensure that everyone involved in his torture faces consequences that will serve as a permanent deterrent to future corporate criminals." The hospital visit that shocked the WWE universe had accomplished more than just family reunion. It had exposed systematic evil, gathered criminal evidence, and begun the process of justice that would eventually destroy everyone involved in the conspiracy against Roman Reigns. Nia Jax had risked her own freedom to save her cousin from medical imprisonment and corporate theft. In doing so, she had proven that family loyalty was still alive in the bloodline and that some people would always choose moral courage over personal safety when someone they loved was in danger. The visit was over, the evidence was gathered, and the countdown to justice had begun. WWE's criminal conspiracy was finally exposed, and Roman Reigns finally had hope that his nightmare would end and his enemies would face consequences for their systematic evil. Everything had changed because one brave woman refused to abandon family when everyone else had given up hope. Nia Jax had saved Roman Reigns, and in doing so, she had saved the soul of professional wrestling itself.